Arsenal's new signings stole the show in yesterday afternoon's 3-0 victory over Nottingham Forest at the Emirates. Today I'm going to do a full match review of that game, and more specifically I'm going to do a deep dive into the Arsenal front three of Eze, Gyokeres and Madueke, and try and work out what difference are our new signings making, because it feels like they're making a really big difference. This is Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark, wherever you are in the world. I really do hope you're well. This is a Sunday morning recording, so we have been about, just less than 24 hours since the game, and I'm still really pleased with that performance. And even though we have a game coming up on Tuesday, I want to sit and reminisce a little bit more on the Nottingham Forest game this morning and talk more specifically, I guess, about our front three of Eze, Gyokeres and Madueke. I don't think we were expecting these guys to need to be so heavily involved so far this season. I think we were probably expecting Havertz and Saka to be about and have a lot more game time, but because of injuries to those two players, these three have been thrust into the limelight. And I want to take a closer look at how they're doing, because quite rightly, I think they're getting a lot of credit for yesterday's performance. And they did really well. And interestingly, I thought they did really well in key moments. There was some specific times in the game. You'll know I've kind of spoken about this a little bit more if you've listened to the instant reaction. If you haven't, go back and listen to that. That was kind of my 20 minutes after the game opinion and my feelings. Today, hopefully a little bit more measured and talking a little bit more detail about the game. If you enjoy instant reactions, if you enjoy match reviews and you enjoy match previews, so you can get to know what to expect from the opposition and then hear about how we dealt with it after the game, make sure that you go and hit follow wherever you get your podcasts from at the top of the Arsenal Unfiltered stream. That means you will get all of those podcasts straight from me for absolutely nothing, straight into your device of choice. Let's get started then, and I have to start with Noni Madueke. The man from Chelsea, £52 million, I believe it was in the end. There was a petition. I mean, that petition is looking very silly now, but a petition to try and get Arsenal not to sign him, as if that would have any power on him or on Arsenal and Arteta in general. I'm just going to pull up the Arteta quote because I thought it was really interesting. From the post-match press conference when he was asked about, or was it the pre-match press conference? It might have been, but basically he was asked about Noni Madueke and about the courage he's brought to the squad and about the situation before Noni Madueke joined. And he essentially said, "I spoke to Noni on the phone, and he said, 'Don't worry about it. I'm not fazed by it.'" And he is a player who really looks like he's not fazed by much, does he? He is so direct, and I absolutely love that about him. And like I said before, I spoke in the instant reaction around that first 30 minutes where it felt like Forest were physical. They were up for it. They wanted to impress Ange Postecoglou, and especially in the first few minutes, they had some good passing moments which we had to deal with. We had to set ourselves into our defensive shape and show our off the ball ability, which we've seen so much already this season. We managed to navigate that, and I think we managed to navigate that because we had Noni Madueke as an outball. We were doing lots of good off-the-ball stuff, and when we did win it back, I thought we were decent on the ball in this period, but we were able to find Noni Madueke a lot, and I thought the first 30 minutes were his best part of the game. He was really direct for the whole game, but that's where he really stood out to me. I thought he faded to the second half, like towards the end of the game, and I think that's why he came off in the end. But fair play, I'm not using that as a criticism. He had been really direct, done a lot of running. I just want to talk you through some stats which I think are really impressive. He attempted 9 take-ons. The only player to get even close to that in an Arsenal shirt was Gyokeres and Eze. No surprise there, the other winger, with 7. He made 5, so he was a 5 out of 9 success rate, 55.6%. 6 progressive carries as well, which I thought was really good. But the one that stood out to me, and the most notable one, is 5 carries into the penalty area from Noni Madueke. The next closest Arsenal player had 1. and that is Eze and Trossard joint on one. No one else carried the ball into the penalty area. So it's a really, really stark show of how direct Noni Madueke likes to be and how targeted towards the goal he is. I said in the instant reaction yesterday, I think he needs to shore up that final action. And I'm not sure if I still agree with that. I've watched some of his highlights back, and actually he created some good chances that were well defended by Nottingham Forest. There was a right foot kind of clip towards the back post where Marino and Gyokeres were really well marked, so he did create a decent chance there. There were a couple of crosses that just went unmet. There's a bit of me that's thinking, is that a quality issue? Is he putting the ball into the wrong area? And then there's also a bit of me that thinks, well, he's got to learn where Eze likes to arrive. He's got to learn where Gyokeres likes to arrive. That's going to take time. It's going to take connections to be built. And to be fair, they've not trained together over the international break, have they? We've thought, there's been 2 weeks, but they've been apart. They've probably had 1-2 training sessions maximum. So I thought, apart from the Ødegaard injury, which was a really bad moment in the first 30 minutes, Madueke was lighting up the first 30 minutes and giving us that kind of ability to be in and around the game. And where Forest were good, we raised our level through Madueke. Like I said, I watched his kind of highlights back this morning, and the thing that's impressing me most about Madueke is his balance and change of direction. Forest's left-back didn't have a good game. I think that's partly because he looked a little bit non-committal, didn't want to get too close to Madueke. Nico Williams, who went... Is it Neko Williams? I'm not sure. The other Forest fullback who went over to left-back following the injury to Murillo, he had a better day against Madueke because he was able to get a bit closer to him, and I think that minimised some of the space Madueke had. But Madueke did terrorise that Morata fella for the first half by just being so good at chopping and changing his direction. There was one in particular where he squares up the man, he goes right, chops back left and goes right again so quickly, and you can see the defenders left all in a fluster. And sometimes when we see players beat a man, they beat them, but the defender is still there. They're still involved. They're still putting pressure on. There was a good 2 yards between Madueke and his fullback, and he was able to get across. I think it was blocked in the end. It's a really interesting skill that he has, and I think it's a really encouraging sign. I said in the instant reaction, I think we are still missing Bukayo Saka. I think if Bukayo Saka plays yesterday, he probably bags 2 or a goal and an assist or something, because there was a lot of space down that right-hand side. But we are not missing him as much as we missed him last season. And that's principally because of Noni Madueke. I think he was really good for multiple moments. And, it tells in the stats, 5 successful take-ons, 5 carries into the penalty area. He was a real threat throughout the whole game. And I thought we channeled so much of our game down his side. And rightly so, to be fair. He really did an excellent job. And I hope he gets the credit that he deserves, because he got so much stick when he was joining and when the transfer was happening. But yesterday, 14 crosses he created. It was really, really impressive how he impacted the game. 7 shot creating actions, just really, really good stuff. It might be 6 progressive carries. It was 27 carries in total, which is just quite incredible. So I'm really, really pleased for him. I just think he needs to get those final balls, maybe get a few more shots off and work on that. Let's go to Victor Gyokeres then, because obviously he gets his goal, but it's a very Victor Gyokeres performance for me, in the sense that I was watching him in the first half and I was thinking, we're not able to connect with him at the moment, and that's a worry for me. You could say that Nottingham Forest do have 2 really good centre-backs. Milenkovic and Murillo are very good. Obviously, they had to make a change, but, for me, Gyokeres should be able to deal with them. And these are the games we've brought him for. These testing games against non-top 6 opposition, because, quite frankly, however you get goals in the games against the top 6, it doesn't matter. Like, who scores them, when they score them, it's not a big deal. You just want to get the goals, get the wins, and get out of there. But it's also not something we've struggled with, right? We've lost points against West Ham, Fulham, Southampton in recent title charges. these teams that can, because the Premier League is such a good league now and the quality is so high right through 1 to 20, these teams that can cause you an issue but aren't necessarily your rivals, the slip-up games, this could have been a slip-up game at home to Nottingham Forest. They need a boost from they're getting a boost from their new manager potentially. We saw this with Everton a few years ago. I think Sean Dyche came in and we lost to them 1-0 in his first game. Like, a new manager bounce, it's really unfortunate. This is a slip-up game, as much as we weren't really thinking about it in that way, because we've got eyes on, the Anfield game that's just gone, City coming up, Newcastle coming up. This could have been one of those games in years gone by. And look, Zubimendi scores his volley. We go in 1-0 at half-time, but from the kind of 30th, or maybe from Zubimendi's goal on the 32nd minute to half-time, I thought Forest grew back into the game where they had been good in the early stages and made us raise our level, and we dominated the first 30 minutes because we raised our level. I think our level dropped slightly as we came towards half-time and Nottingham Forest started to create some chances. And I did think at half-time 1-0 doesn't feel enough here, and I don't want this to get to 65, 70, 75 minutes at 1-0 and the Emirates get nervous and Forest sense that. And that's where a player like Victor Gyokeres comes in handy, because he is just so goal-centric. He is so determined to score. That's his single focus. And a player that had been, I'm going to say, largely peripheral. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm not criticising him in that. But I just think we weren't connecting with him very well. He'd been largely peripheral in the first half. He senses that moment in the first 40 seconds of the second half. He drives towards the goal. He is picking up a position in the 6-yard box, in between the sticks, and he is ready to score a tap-in. It's a really important moment, and it shows why you buy players who are number 9s, who are focused solely on scoring goals, because we were able to quickly put a ball over the top. Eze, I'll come on to his contribution as well, but obviously no dilly-dallying, as we might have seen from a Martinelli or a Trossard trying to get that under control. Just snap that ball across. Simple tap-in, simple goal. But I really do think this is one of the things that is super valuable about Victor Gyokeres, because in seasons gone by, and I'm going to talk specifically, I think, about the last 2 seasons. In the last 2 seasons gone by, we have seen Arsenal try and set themselves up for goals, and often it works, and we have seen us really demolish teams, but it has felt like moments like that yesterday we've kind of passed up, where there should have been a ball over the top, there should have been a quick pass, where we're playing on instinct and we're playing with a player who is just obsessed with being in front of the white sticks, and being in front of the goal and getting tap-ins and scoring goals. We've missed those moments because we're worried about kind of setting a play and trying to almost create a set piece in open play, not to, stoke a narrative, but I think that's stoke a narrative. That was not a pun I meant to go for. Apologies. But not to poke a narrative. But I think that is kind of a little bit of what has slowed us down at times in our attack and been frustrating. This was very direct, and Eze was able to put that ball across because Victor Gyokeres was there, and suddenly all of that kind of potential angst that I had around, could this be 1-0 at 75 minutes? Are we going to have a worrying moment? Is this going to be 2 drop points because we don't score the goals when we need to score them? That's all gone because Victor Gyokeres got there, and a player, again, it's not a criticism, but he was peripheral for the first half, telling contribution very, very quickly. He's such a low-touch player. He's so different to Kai Havertz. Clive Palmer said this on the Arsenal Vision podcast, and I think it's right. We've kind of got to adjust our eyes to watching him. We've got to make sure we watch and see if he's getting chances. It's not necessarily with Victor Gyokeres, are we watching to see, is he doing those Kai Havertz runs round the side of the winger? How's he doing in the combative nature with the centre-backs? Victor Gyokeres is going to take running and take the combat easily. He's going to take to that really easily. What we need to see from him is, are you getting shots? Because I think if he gets shots, he will score goals. He's a very good finisher. He arrives in great positions. I don't want him to be as high a touch player as Kai Havertz. We've got a Kai Havertz for that reason. Hopefully he gets back and is healthy very soon. I want him scoring tap-ins from Eze crosses. I want him there. I want him doing those direct runs. I don't want him thinking about what am I doing going back towards our goal. I only want him thinking, how can I hurt the opposition? And he did that yesterday in abundance. He came off on the 67th, 68th minute, and I actually thought his period after half-time to that moment where he came off was his best period of the game. There was another moment where he picked the ball up on the left wing and we saw him drive across the pitch. He gave the ball to Noni Madueke, went round the outside of Noni Madueke and crashed one against the post. And again, it's a very similar sort of thing. In the position that he picks the ball up from, I think we see Martinelli kind of... And again, I'm not picking on Martinelli. I don't mean to pick on Martinelli. Any of our other kind of players in that spot, or our players who have been at the club for a while, maybe drift up the line, slowly come inside, slowly go back, trying to turn their man, trying to create a moment where we can set up a move or a pre-scripted training ground kind of thing. But Gyokeres wasn't about that. He sensed there was some danger. He sensed there was an opportunity to hurt Nottingham Forest, and he drove at them. And he had them running back towards their own goal, and thankfully Madueke was there as well to support him, give him a really nice ball. It's a good shot. He's a bit unlucky it doesn't sneak in the near post. Again, I was so happy to see that because you can catch teams off guard like that, and I think that kind of speed of attack is something we really, really needed last year, needed the year before. And it's just a couple of moments in that second half where I'm seeing Victor Gyokeres central to those really fast attacking moments where the other team aren't set. How often, I will move on from Victor Gyokeres, sorry, but I think it's a really important point. How often did we get frustrated last season by the way teams were able to set so easily against us? They would set into a low block so easily, and we'd say, everyone plays in a low block. There is a part of teams looking at what has worked against Arsenal and going, we'll do a bit of that as well. But you've got to remember, there is a part of us that allowed that to happen by being slow in build-up, by trying to engineer training ground moments on the pitch. Yesterday, in that period between half-time and him coming off, Victor Gyokeres was like, nah, when I sense danger, I'm going for it. And I think that's why we've seen him score 3 goals, but be largely kind of not involved in a lot of the games because he's waiting for those moments. He's trying to pick up positions that allow him to exploit those moments. So really good for me. It's very different. It is a completely different watch than watching Kai Havertz. And I've got to get used to that. I do. But for me, he scored 3 goals in 4 games. If you'd said to me, pardon me, if you'd said to me at the start of the season, hey, Victor Gyokeres after 4 games will have 3 goals and he still won't look at his absolute best yet, I'd be absolutely delighted. So a really good moment for him. He obviously came off. Another player who came off slightly later, I think, was Gyokeres and Eze. And I want to talk about him a little bit because he has been here less time than Gyokeres and Madueke. I think he had an okay game. Obviously got an assist. So that's a little bit of a kind of narrative killed early doors, which I think is great. Just to make sure that that's not really going to be a thing. So the assist was welcome. 2 shots as well. That's not too bad. We want to see our attacking players up around the 3-4 shots per 90, I think. He wasn't as involved as Madueke. We really tilted to the right-hand side, as we do. We've got Madueke over there. We've got Timber. And, of course, we had Ødegaard for the first part of the game. Touch wood, he is okay. And let's hope that is not a serious re-injury. It clearly is a re-injury. But let's hope it's not a serious re-injury. Like Madueke, he carried the ball really well. 24 carries, 4 progressive carries. He was a busy boy. He had some lovely touches, some lovely flicks around his defender, and also looks really good in tight spaces, doesn't he? There was one particular time where he was pressured right up, kind of halfway area, right up to the touchline, and he just managed to wriggle free of the Nottingham Forest defender, and I really, really liked it. So yeah, I was impressed with Eze. The thing I would say about him is we're going to have to be a bit more patient with him. Like, I don't want to see people comparing him to Madueke yet. Madueke's been here a lot longer. Eze's had basically, he came in, was thrown into the mixer at the end of the Liverpool game. Look, had some bright moments, but I think everyone was like reserved on it. Like, yeah, some nice touches, some nice turns, but didn't feel part of the team as in the way that someone like Declan Rice or Martin Ødegaard does, right? Yeah, where they're kind of integral and everything goes through them. I think we're going to see that with Eze. But right now, he's had very few training sessions with the team. He went away on international break with England and has come back. Let's give him a few weeks to settle because Madueke and Gyokeres have had a few weeks. But I am encouraged by the little moments of what I've seen. I've spoken about three attackers and I've not spoken about our man who scored the brace, Martin Zubimendi. I'm going to quickly touch on him before I go for a break. I think Zubimendi, the technique for the volley, I spoke about that on the instant reaction yesterday, is unbelievable. Really, pardon me, really good work from him to keep that on target. It's such an easy one to balloon over the bar, so excellent from him. And I think as well, it's really interesting that he got up and won that header. It's a fantastic ball from Trossard, by the way. Again, I'm talking about Gyokeres, Madueke, Eze. I'm not talking about Trossard, who came on and got an assist with basically his first touch. He has the second most goal contributions in the Arsenal squad since his debut, after Bukayo Saka now. I think that takes him to 50 since his debut. He is a real tough nut to crack. Like, I don't quite understand what his role is in the squad anymore. With Eze coming in, with Madueke coming in, I think he still will get minutes and probably have telling goals and assist contributions. Really interesting that Zubimendi wins that header though, and just great to see a midfielder step up and score goals. We've seen goals from Declan Rice over the past 2 seasons. A couple of years ago, we saw tons from Martin Ødegaard. We hope to bring that Martin Ødegaard back. If our kind of, I'm going to inverted commas 6, because he isn't really playing as a true 6 in my opinion, but let's say our 6. If he's going to pop up with goals as well, we are going to be a really good attacking force. And I thought the volley was fantastic. The instinct on the header was really good from him. A fantastic display. I love him. He's going to be one of those silent players this year that people don't talk about in the mainstream media, but he's massive for Arsenal. I think he has really proved how brilliant he is going to be for us. Okay, I'm going to take a short break, and when I come back, we are going to talk a little bit about Rice being rested. I think that was a really interesting kind of development in this Forest game. Maybe a development for Arteta as well. And I also want to talk about Timber and Mosquera, give them a shout out because I thought they were really good as well. Sorry to interrupt everyone, but I just want to ask a very quick favour. If you're enjoying any of the match reviews, the match previews, the instant reactions that we're doing around the Arsenal games at the moment, and any of the bonus episodes that I bring out, if you are enjoying any of those, please consider going and leaving a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast from. It really helps me grow the podcast and allows more Arsenal fans to experience this content and enjoy the community of our club together. So yeah, wherever you get your podcast from, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, it all really helps. Go and leave a like or a 5-star review. It's super helpful. Thank you. Welcome back to part 2 of this match review podcast for Arsenal 3, Nottingham Forest 0. I want to talk to you now about squad depth. Because I think yesterday was a wholly positive day for the Arsenal. We saw a kind of clinical attacking display, I thought, with lots and lots of positive, lots of things to latch onto from an attacking point of view, where, like I've already spoken about with the players up the top, there were moments, there were times that they really had a really big influence, all of that sort of stuff. Contributions from the midfield with Zubimendi as well, and a thoroughly professional defensive display. We did all of that without William Saliba, basically without Martin Ødegaard, because he was taken off after 18 minutes, hurt after basically 7. Without Bukayo Saka, without Kai Havertz, without Gabriel Jesus. We also didn't see Ben White. We didn't have Christian Norgard. We only saw a little bit of Martinelli, a little bit of Rice. Like, we really did this. I mean, look, we started a Premier League game without Saliba, Saka, Rice or Havertz. That feels like a core of our team from last year and the year before, especially the year before when we were in that run. We didn't have any of them. And I hasten to say you didn't notice it, because I think with those players available, we'd probably cut Nottingham Forest apart a little bit more easily, and we do a really good job. But the players that are coming in now are stepping up. And I remember back to that first title charge where we lost Saliba and Tomiyasu in the same game, and we saw that drop off from Saliba at centre-back to Rob Holding at centre-back, and it was huge. It was absolutely massive. The drop off from Saliba to Mosquera, it's still big. Saliba's an amazing player, but Mosquera is handling himself so well in the kind of, I think, basically 180-ish minutes that we've seen of him in the Premier League. So what a player to be able to come in. And I feel like we've stolen him from Valencia. Amazing we were able to get a player of that talent for 13 million. Well done to Andrea Berta. Marino comes in. And this is so interesting. In fact, let me leave the Marino one. Saka comes out. Madueke has a great game. Gyokeres is starting. We're not too worried about that without Havertz. It's really, really interesting how we're coping with these players. The Marino one, like I said, it's so interesting because Arteta said something in his post-match press conference about why he didn't start with Declan Rice. Declan Rice, by the way, who had an incredibly impressive international break himself, and has had a fairly good start to the season, right? In the international break, he scored a goal, got 2 assists. Like he had a good time out there. But, and I'm just trying to find the quote. He was asked about giving Declan Rice the rest. He said, Mikel Merino comes back after scoring 4 goals in 2 games and a really high emotional state. I want to use that when a player is in that moment. For me, that was so interesting because Arteta, we have known as someone who he has a very small group that he trusts. And when we were going on that fantastic run 2 seasons ago, we saw the same team roll out. And there's been some stubbornness, I think, from Arteta. Not a criticism again. Sometimes he had no other options. Sometimes it makes sense to really keep the same group. And sometimes we just didn't have the other players, not just available in terms of injury, but of enough quality. He gave Declan Rice a rest. He said that quote. And Mikel Merino did a really, really good job. And I just wonder, is this a turning of the tide? Is this a moment where we start to see Arteta use his squad more, rotate more, and get away from that model where he has kind of 15 players that he trusts, and he has more like 22, 23 that he trusts? I'm really interested to see what the lineup is in the Tuesday game against Athletic Bilbao now, because I think he's shown his hand that he is willing to rest big players for not necessarily the biggest of big games. I can't imagine Declan Rice is on the bench against Manchester City, but he is willing to rest them in tricky games, and Champions League games are all tricky no matter who you're playing. I wonder, will we see I'm going to get this wrong, Hincapié? Are we going to see Miles Lewis-Skelly come back into the side? Are we going to see Ethan Nwaneri from the start? Will we see, perhaps, I'm trying to think here, to be fair, we've got some injuries. Will we see Calafiori at centre-back? Will we see Marino play again, in some sort of capacity? It's really interesting to see how we're going to rotate for this game. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. The depth that we've got at the moment is really showing promise. It's really showing talent, quality. And it feels like we are in a position. Yes, Liverpool have got this wonderful, wonderful attack that I think is the envy of any club in the world. But do they have the depth behind that? Do they have the depth in their midfield? Do they have the depth in their defence like we do? Well, no, they definitely don't have the depth in their defence like we do. Will they cope? Can they cope? Or will us being able to rotate players early doors, will that help us in the long run? I hope that this is a sign from Mikel Arteta that he's willing to trust more of the squad and use more of the squad. Let's quickly talk about a player I mentioned there and the player who played to the right of him, Christian Mosquera and Jurrien Timber. I thought they were fantastic yesterday. Mosquera just looks so assured. I mentioned him just there. He has had a really, really good start to life at Arsenal. He's a rangy player. He's quick, looks comfortable on the ball. Looks like he takes up some really intelligent positions. Yesterday he had 4 clearances and 4 tackles and interceptions combined. Really, really involved, pardon me, from a defensive side of things. Won all the tackles he had to make. I was just really, really impressed with him. And Jurrien Timber was similar. Made 2 tackles and interceptions combined, 5 clearances. He was really kind of positive going forward as well. I know Nottingham Forest didn't offer too much, especially after Callum Hudson-Odoi came off. I thought that was a strange sub from them. But Jurrien Timber had 3 progressive carries, 3 carries into the final third. It was an interesting game from him, and I thought he's starting to change my mind really about how I view the right back spot, because I had viewed it as Ben White's the really brilliant attacking option and Jurrien Timber's the lockdown option. I think Jurrien Timber, it feels like he's added that attacking element into his game the end of last year, and coming into this year he's got a lot better moving forward. I think he looks more mobile, more physically capable, and I thought he was really good going forward in this game, as well as excellent defensively. I think it was 9 passes into the final third, which is the most of any player for Arsenal yesterday. It shows obviously how right side biased we are, that our right back is providing the most of those passes. Obviously, if Martin Odegaard had stayed on the pitch, does that change? If Ethan Nwaneri had more minutes at that kind of number 8, number 10 spot, will he develop that? Because I think that's something he needs to look at. But really positive from both of those players. I could go on. I could talk about how good all the players were. I thought Calafiori had some good moments. Marcelo Skelly had some good moments when he came on. Raya had a wonderful fingertip save from a bizarre Chris Wood chested moment. That was wonderful. He is such a good keeper. Gabriel, some big blocks. I could talk for forever about how good our players were, but I don't think you guys would appreciate that. What I am going to do, guys, I'm going to endeavour to do an Athletic Bilbao preview podcast tomorrow. If I don't get that done, keep your eyes out on Wednesday for the match review podcast. Okay, that definitely will come out on Wednesday, so keep an eye for that. Keep an eye for the preview if I manage it as well. Tight on time a little bit in the week coming up, but we will see how I get on, and I hope to bring you another episode very, very shortly. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I'm really enjoying Arsenal being back. The international break was a bit rubbish, wasn't it? I don't like these early international breaks. They really ruin the flow, but we are back in a flow. We've got Bilbao coming up. We've got City coming up. I think it's Olympiacos after that. Some interesting games. Really, really exciting. Exciting to cover them all, and hopefully we get plenty of wins. 2 more wins this week, and I'll be a very, very happy boy. So let's keep an eye out for that. Make sure you follow, guys. Make sure you leave a review. And all that's left to say is thank you for following. Thank you for listening. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.